She's funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karas.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karas' Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karas, and yes, we continue to Zoom until they tell us that we don't have to Zoom anymore unless we really want to. You know I like to be live in the studio looking in the eyes of my guests, but we'll take it, and I'm very excited about our guests today. But before we start, you know we always have to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising and marketing needs. They can help you with any type of a flyer. They can help you analyze the demographics of your business, and they are experts in the Greek community. Go to their websites, hollywoodgreeks.com. And for Hellenic Festival, that's Greek Festival, information, go to hellenicfestival.org. There will be Greek festivals. Trust me, Greeks will not stop eating because there's some stupid pandemic. Please, please. And our other sponsor is SelectFlex. What is it? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? It's an insert, and I actually happen to have the box right here. What I love about these is that there is an adjustability in the arch. So a lot of the over-the-counter orthotics are static. This one, you can adjust the arch to firm, extra firm, extra firm, depending on what your needs are. And go to their website, selectflex.com, selectflex.com. Type in the code family25 if you go to buy them, and you will get a 25% discount. There's also a 30-second video. It'll show you how it works. I never really do this copy any justice, but trust me, go. I could not work out without these. I could not walk around the city without these, or any trips or anything. They are a fantastic product and completely affordable, even during this whatever this is. I don't even know anymore. I'm done with it, and it's over as far as I'm concerned. Maybe, sort of, kind of, maybe in my mind. I'm putting it out there. I don't know. But I am excited about our guest, who I've been trying to get on for quite some time. I adore this man. He is so interesting, and he has such a fantastic background. He has had his hands in just about every pot of show business that there is. He's also my manager, and I can't wait till we really explode and things start to go back to the way that they were and better, so we can start doing some more stuff. So without further ado, he is a producer, obviously a talent manager. He was the executive producer of the Drama Desk Awards. He is one of the owners of Step Forward Entertainment. Please welcome my guest, Bob Blume.
Hello, hello. Before I start, let me just say one thing. The iFlex that I saw as one of your sponsors, I've used because I was a hockey goalie for 40 years. I just stopped playing a little while ago. I had 2 meniscus surgeries, and believe me, it's a great product because I used it. So I just thought that was funny when I saw it. That was your sponsor.
That's right. I think I gave you one, right? Did I give you one?
No, but I've had it. I bought one.
Okay. Thank you. I'll let them know. That's great.
Yes, no, this is purely me. You didn't know about it.
No, I did not. Oh my God, what a great endorsement.
If you ever have another one, the product will give you. I'm happy to take it because I use it because I'm active.
You know? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, these are absolutely amazing. But I'm so happy to see you. Just at least.
Same here. It's been too long. Plus, we've been all cooped up since March. So, you know.
I can't. So, I love following you on Facebook. That's kind of the contact that we have with all each other, right? Is pretty much social media. Unless you do decide to venture out, which we're starting to do a little bit more. I mean, it's not like it was in March and April, people are out and stuff, but it's still I don't know, it's just a pain in the ass. You go someplace, where you're going to go, you're going to sit in the bus lane, you're going to wear your mask. I don't know. It's still not easy, and like someone like you don't live in the city. So you're not coming in as much, I would assume, right? Because you could just do everything from home. So
Yeah. Well, I'll fill you when you want me to answer. I'm happy to tell you. Sure.
yeah, so
Okay.
so you don't really get to see anybody. But I'm loving your Facebook posts, and you're doing fundraisers. You're doing so many things, but let's just kind of start a little bit from the beginning, though. So are you a Brooklyn person? Are you a Brooklyn guy?
Yes, I went to Erasmus Hall High School, although I did live a good part of my young life in Toronto, okay, with
Oh,
family. So
wow.
I was kind of back and forth between Brooklyn and Toronto.
Uh-huh.
My family were mostly in show business. I don't know, you may know some of this, you may not. My father was a well-known violinist of that era of the 40s and 50s and 60s, and he was also Charlie Parker's manager, if you know jazz.
Mm-hmm.
He played violin and Parker with strings and managed Parker from 50 until 1955 when he died. And I was the tiny little white kid running around all the great black jazz clubs in New York. It was a lot of fun.
Oh,
How
wow.
little I remember, you know. But I
That's
come from that kind of family, so
right,
this.
right. It's and so you were just immersed in it. I mean, it's a huge part of your life. So,
Mhm.
it is the family business. And so what a natural, and I know you love music. I mean, you love
Yes.
Broadway, obviously, which is an understatement. You cast in Broadway, you've been a producer in Broadway. What do you remember what like the first Broadway show that you ever went to?
I do, but I always forget the name. I always want to say On the Town, but I don't think it was. It had town in it, and it was Nancy Walker. And I was a kid, about 10 years old, and I sat in the balcony, really high up. That's what I remember.
Uh-huh.
Nancy Walker was the
Nancy
one who
Walker.
held Bounty, I think, if you remember. Bounty, way back, like 25 years ago when she was older. But that was my first Broadway. I really wasn't a Broadway guy. I was more for television, and I kind of got into theater in the '70s through a show I got involved with called "Let My People Come," written by Earl Wilson Jr.
So
And that's
I
how I.
always I always say I am definitely a product of the sitcoms because
Yeah.
see back in the day you your parents were allowed to let you sit in front of the TV for hours upon hours. Child services would never come.
That's
Nobody would ever report you.
so true.
It was socially acceptable to watch a ton of TV. And if anything, it was encouraged, so this would
Yeah.
just be out of the way. So, did you watch a lot of the sitcoms, which are, now
Well, I watched
classic?
a lot. I was in it because in the late '60s, while I was in college, I worked on the Johnny Carson show before it moved for about 3 years, and I worked as a page at NBC. A
Oh
lot
my
of
God.
wild adventures there, and I got to know a lot of the people involved with television. I was going to work in TV, but some personal things happened, and I wound up doing something else for a few years and got sidetracked. But I loved television, and I was a major part of it, and I watched all the shows, and even now I'm an era older than you are, okay, by another era. All right. And in the late '50s, I was very lucky. I used to watch shows like Rocky Jones, Space Ranger, and Davy Crockett, which is, I guess I was a little child of the late '50s, right? And my aunt actually was a model, dated both of them. So I was the first kid with a coonskin cap. I've never
Oh,
actually talked about this publicly. It's
oh my
just fun
God.
fact, but because I never talk about personal things like this, but it was fun. I got my own coonskin cap from Davy Crockett, with the which very big in America in the late '50s, and Rocky Jones, Space Ranger. They had those one of those black and white shows where they pulled the tin can in front of the black board with the stars, right? You could see the string, pull the can that was flying through space. And I got part of the set as I think an eighth birthday or ninth birthday.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I've always watched and loved TV. I still look at the Honeymooners. I mean, it's a lot. Lucy, those two shows will last forever. you know.
Well, actually, one of my influences is Lucille Ball, Mary Tyler Moore,
Oh, great,
um, you know,
great.
Carol Burnett, obviously. But I used to watch I Love Lucy reruns with my great grandmother.
Oh, it's
And I
I
mean, if it's on,
love
and
memories
yeah,
like that. I mean, all my only memory to work of what you just said was I with my grandparents. I remember two things as a kid. I would sit with my grandmother and watch wrestling. She loved wrestling, right? The wrestling of the '60s, you know, a long time ago. And my grandfather, we used to watch Perry Mason.
that's
So
on too
that's my
sometimes.
memories.
Yeah,
Hmm?
I was hoping that's on too. That's like on a Me TV or something.
I still watch them to relax when I'm home at 11:30 at night, and only got into it during the pandemic because I have time to do it. Otherwise, I'm out seeing shows most nights, and I don't get back until too late, you know. But
Right, right,
no live theater, so here
right.
we are.
Well, you know, it's funny that you say that. I watch at 11 Seinfeld.
Love it. Oh
Which
yeah, the best.
relaxes me. Of course, I've seen every episode. Yeah, I know that. I know exactly that. It what it does when you say relaxes. You're like the only person that's ever said that other than me that I've heard. It just calms me down. There's nothing political. There's nothing topical that's going on now. The craziness, whatever. And I feel like it was at a time. So and Seinfeld was the '90s. You know where it was a little simpler
Oh yeah,
and
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 fun.
fun. It was
Just
fun.
everything. That show just took everyday occurrences
Right.
and had such a sense of humor about it. It was just brilliant and amazed me how popular it was with people outside of New York because I thought it was so New York centric.
Right.
But people all related to it. I talked to people who've never been to New York, and they said New York was Seinfeld to them. They feel like they're a New Yorker by watching that show.
Right, right. Well, there's been. I agree with that. There was the guy that played that was based off of Kramer. I think his name is Kenny Kramer, right? I think his real name is Kenny Kramer, and
I,
he
Kenny Kramer. Yeah.
right, and he did the tour for years. He had his own tour. As a matter of fact, I did it, and it was like I live here. Obviously, I've been here. I mean, I'm from here, so
Yeah.
but I know I could definitely see that, and that that's sort of like the other thing that I love about movies and TV and what it's done. I mean, I'm a native New Yorker. It's really given people that even if you're not able to come here, a real flavor. I mean, usually in New York, if it's a show based in New York, that's another character, like in
Yeah.
Sex and the City, like in Seinfeld. And I think, to me, maybe I'm being a bit of a snob, but I think it's a little bit more than even, when LA is the background, because they're just like in a car, where here it's like a little,
A car and a palm tree. Yeah.
right.
Well, I have a lot of my son lives there, a lot of friends there, but
Huh?
I like New York. I
Yeah.
still love New York. New York has a pulse. You just walk around, you feel the energy. Even going during bad times, you can still feel the energy. Although I have to say, you talked at the beginning, you're right. I don't get into New York much since March. Usually it's in a car to go up and pick up my mail at my office, which I haven't worked at since early March.
Right.
And the pace is not, the pulse is not the same with restaurants not, a lot of them not open, and the streets are just emptier. And at night, it just does. And the riding through the theater district is depressing as a theater person. I'm there 3 nights a week during the year seeing shows because I'm also a voter, a dramatist voter. So I go to see everything. And but it'll come back. Everybody's a little down right now, but it will come back.
Well, you know what? Since we're on this topic, let's just talk about that right now. So, I'm sure you felt the same way. When this all started to happen, and there was like an analysis of businesses, and gyms and theaters and restaurants, and what was essential, what was not essential, and all that kind of stuff. And I was very alarmed. Well, as a stand-up comic as well, so it's a whole nother way I make my living, and also Broadway, but also as a New Yorker, because Broadway brings in tourism, and everything feeds off of everything. The restaurants, the shoe shine guy, the coffee, the this, the that, the stores, everything. I mean, it really made me stop and think about how interconnected everything is. You think we live in this bubble, but we don't. It really, one thing feeds off the other. And then, as time went on and wasn't looking like, this was going to be some 2-week thing, and thinking about Broadway and thinking about how close the seats are. And my husband and I did get involved. I won't say the name. Well, I might have told you. I'm not going to say it, on air. And if you want to know,
Okay.
I'll certainly tell you afterwards. But we did make a little investment in a Broadway production a few years ago, and I know for a fact that the margins are very, very thin, and there's also a huge amount of people behind the scenes, and it ain't cheap. And then it's union, so that's sort of like a whole nother thing. And I mean, but nobody's like not screwing in a light bulb that's not supposed to be there. So, and there's makeup and costume and all this kind of stuff. And it's my whole point is the overhead is pretty large, unless I don't know. Your production is very bare bones, but generally, at least for Broadway, they're very extravagant. And I was just like, oh my gosh, economically, how is this ever going to happen? I live on the Upper East Side. I have not been down to Times Square. I mean, it's just I'm so apprehensive because I heard that around there it's not great. So so what's your feeling? Here we are. We're in September.
I don't know. I hear many different things on the inside. There are Broadway producers who are saying it'll be 3 years. Some say it'll start next year. A lot will depend on when the virus goes away, however the virus goes away. Because when the virus goes away, as you know, theater's base audience is older, over 40, their average audience.
Right.
They also can't really social distance in theaters because the margin's so thin.
Right.
So you have to be able to go to the theater comfortably and be in crowded places comfortably. And you also need a lot of tourists. And right now, the tourists are not coming to New York.
Right.
And they'll need to get the tourists back. So I think a lot of that will happen once this medical situation of the virus is solved, however it's solved. That's my feeling.
Thank you for saying it that way, because some people, and look, I just want whatever the resolution is, of course, but a lot of people like, no, not until a vaccine will and not until this and not until that and whatever. And I agree with you. It's like, whatever the means are, whatever it is, or I'm praying that it dies away, that it actually viruses itself out.
Yeah, and you don't know, and there's a lot of politics involved. So that's why I say it the way I say it. When people feel comfortable going out and mingling and going to places with crowds, everything will return. It may take time, and we don't know how much, because, what are we basing it on? What happened in 1918? Different world entirely. So I really don't know, and I'm not smarter than other people in that way. We all have our personal feelings. We all have our thoughts. But it doesn't really matter. I just know that there'll always be a place for theater. It's a big industry in New York. People do love the live show. And Broadway will thrive again. It's just that what has to happen so people can come back has to be cleared up. And that's what they have to work on. And whatever that timeline is, that's when it's going to happen.
Right.
That's how I feel. But in the meantime, just to give you, especially as an actress and as a client also, things are just starting to open up a little now. They're just starting to cast some TV, looking to begin probably in October to shoot. And they're going to shoot with all these COVID-19 guidelines.
Yeah.
which I think will, so we all won't be in spacesuits, but it might be close. I don't know. Uh, so it's a good time to shoot some sci-fi stuff because the spacesuits can serve as protection and as the costume. So can do both. But I'm half joking about that. But it is going to return, and depending on how everything reacts, we'll see how fast everything gets back up to speed. But there's a big entertainment industry, and people want to be entertained, and they don't want to watch only old stuff. They want to see new.
Right.
And so eventually it will happen. And I'm not in the know enough to predict anything, except just from what I get from reading and watching and being an intelligent person.
Right. Right.
But I'm just hoping it's sooner than later.
Right.
So.
I definitely am seeing casting notices come my way. I'm seeing a little bit more open, a little bit more work. Things are starting to happen. They are requiring everybody to get the COVID test. I have to tell you, the thought of something in my nose scares me more than the virus sometimes. But I'm sort of waiting for the one where you spit because I'll spit every day.
Yes, that's the one in Israel. I think that they're having like huge success, and it needs to be cleared to be manufactured. But I think it's close. The one where I'm sorry, it's not spit. This is the one I saw it on TV. You breathe into it, and there's a chip underneath, goes in the computer, and it was 96% effective. And if they get it, they'll have it at every airport, every ball game. But you can have it. I'll tell you something interesting in the viewers that you may not know. Tyler Perry has his own studios in Atlanta. You're familiar with that, right?
Yes.
Okay, what I understand, because my associate in LA is a friend of his, knows him for years. He started filming already in Atlanta a while ago. He's got his own lab on his stages, state-of-the-art studios, and he was bringing people in and including extras into rooms 6 feet apart, spaced out, other people, individual rooms, getting COVID tests, getting an answer in 45 minutes with the lab right there. And then if you passed, you went right into wardrobe. If you failed, you went right home. Isn't that amazing? And I know he got one full season of something already shot in the summer using that method. And this, I don't know if it's publicized. I just know I was told this. So it's.
You know what? If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Tyler Perry, because he has done things that are absolutely remarkable. He's the male Oprah as far as I'm concerned, in terms of like empire and business smarts and just.
Yeah, he is.
Blowing through, the usual procedures. So that's great. And I will blow or spit in anything 5 times a day if need be. But the thing in the nose really wigs me out. So
yeah, me too. I'm lucky. I'm staying safe and healthy. I'm trying to stay that way.
Yeah. I know that in the comedy world, the stand-up comedy world I'm talking about, obviously clubs have not been able to open inside. Well, also in New York City is, I believe, this is what I was hearing actually as of today, probably one of the only places where we can't have seating inside restaurants at a limited capacity. It's like one of the only.
I think so, yeah. And that's, again, politics is affecting a lot of different situations rather than the actual science of it. And it is what it is, depending where you live.
Yes. And I will say that we can all agree that Mayor de Blasio isn't one of our favorite people these days. And we're not exactly quite sure what his logic, is. I mean, listen, I'm very proud. I'm very proud that as New Yorkers, we did what we needed to do because those hospitals were a shit show, and I've heard that more times than I need to. So so that was true, and I get it, and absolutely, and all that. But now we're here, And I think we need to be, a little bit more flexible. And quite frankly, here I mean, everybody walks around with a mask. There's very few people that, aren't. And listen, if somebody's all the way down the block and they have the mask on the chin and they're not near anybody, it's fine. As long as when you pass by, you put it back on. And, I mean, we gotta like be a little flexible, but I don't understand why, because I walk by a lot of restaurants and again, it would go for a comedy club or whatever. And there's a ton of space inside. And I'm like, it'd be nice if these people were at least able to, have some customers in there. I mean, listen, every little bit is going to help because it's.
Oh, I feel so bad for restaurants. I mean, personally, one of my biggest hangouts was Sardi's, and Sardi's is at the moment not going to open until Broadway comes back because so much of their business, they're a legend, and they were going to be 100 years old, I think, this year or next year.
Uh-huh.
And what I hear is they're coming back no matter what, but I'm just assuming that they're tied in very close with the Schuberts because the Schuberts are their landlords and they're very close, the owners of Sardi's. And I know Joe Allen, another major theater restaurant, which has the whole building. It actually has two other restaurants, Orso and the other one, the bar above. I can't remember the name at the moment. And at the moment, though, he closed the building down and, has plans to come back when the theater business comes back. So I don't know, but I went out to a restaurant 3 weeks ago for the first time since March.
Wow.
Up in Piermont, New York.
Yeah.
Upstate New York by the water. You can, socially distant, our own table. The waiters wore masks, but you could eat inside.
Right.
And outside. It was rainy, so we actually ate inside. And that was great to even be in a restaurant. Things we always just took for granted living in New York or being in the New York area suddenly is like a special treat. We don't have to order from Uber Eats or Grubhub or wherever we get our food from.
Yeah.
But, it seems to be getting better, and I hope it stays that way. That's my feeling.
On that one, when you were talking about taking things for granted, I'm really trying to take away from this the higher reason. I mean, me, I'm Greek Orthodox. I have a lot of faith, and I don't think that things just happen and they're a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I try to kind of look and see really what the reason is. And well, there's a few things. One is, I think, to me, again, just me, I think God looked down and was like, what a shit show. That's it. Time out. Everybody go to your room and you think about this behavior. That's my opinion. But the other thing was that I also feel like, it's like anything else. When it's taken away from you, then you realize how much you appreciate it. And one thing that I do not take advantage of is museums. People come from all over the world to come to our beautiful museums. And I promised myself that I would make, I'd make it my business at least once a month, to go to one of the museums and to just, first of all, expand my mind and go visit, the wonderful, the history, the displays, whatever it is. So I sort of felt the same way. And, even, I love live theater. I love Broadway. I mean, I tell people there's nothing like a live performance, and you can watch a zillion things. I'm not a big Netflixer at all. And it's fine. And listen, it's worked. And anybody that owns Netflix, God bless you. Stock, God bless you.
We're making a lot of money, yes.
But to me, live performance, it just takes you on a journey. It's just, not the same thing. I say the same thing with stand-up comedy. Certainly watch a comedian's performance on HBO or Netflix or whatever. I'm not discouraging that at all. Hopefully someday I'll have mine. But there certainly is nothing better than watching it live. And since I know so many that are on TV, sometimes I'll be home and I'll be watching and I'm like, oh, there's so-and-so, and I'll watch them. And I'm like, you know what? This is the thing. They are so much funnier. They are funny and they're great, but they're so much funnier in person. There's just something about that energy.
You're right. What I'm surprised hasn't happened yet in the comedy world, but I'm going to actually, in a way, plug a friend's virtual business he started. You may have known Bernie Firstpan, who used to own the Metropolitan Room in New York on 22nd Street. He had closed it up about a year and a half before, and he was booking the Triad among his other ventures. Okay, on 72nd Street. He started something during this pandemic called Metropolitan Zoom. I don't know if you're aware of it or not. If you are, you can tell me. But basically, he wanted to create the virtual nightclub experience. So you go on his site, and he has people that he shows them, and they have to get certain equipment, how they can have a cabaret show from their setup. It looked like a nightclub, but it's in their home. Okay. And, with the certain sound you have to get, and a certain, the lighting and a certain webcam and things like that. So I did one of the shows. We did one in August, okay, on August 7th, live. You don't tape. It doesn't play. His thing is it's going to be live. He has somebody welcome you. They teach you how to make certain drinks. They want you to get dressed up. He educates the audience like you're walking into a club. And we did a show we did a concert with, everybody else was a solo or two. We did one with 4 people in our home because we have a real pianist who comes here and 3 other people that are vetted, that have all, like their clients, and they've all friends of us, and they're all cleared and they're all tested and safe. And they came here, we rehearsed, spent a little bit of money, so I lost, but we got curtains, got certain things, sound to go with the mixer and the piano, and had a friend bring some lights and quality, and we did a nightclub act, a 1-hour show, which I would have done at the Green Room or the Triad if it was open.
Right.
We did it here, and we had about 115 people who bought tickets. I think they were $25 from all over the world. We had 7 countries and 115 people there. And it was really wonderful. And we put a huge screen up, not huge, my 37-inch television set, smart TV, up so they could actually see the crowd and talk to them. And it was very touching. We even had one of the girls had moved here from the Philippines 4 years ago, and her parents had never seen her perform live since she moved to America. And there they were watching her live, first time they ever got to see her live since she moved here. So it's a very exciting moment.
I love that story.
And he does these concerts. Usually they're 1 person or 2 people, but they've all been singing. But I'm just thinking, as you being a professional comedian, also besides an actress, you might look to put together maybe even the goal is it's not like Zoom where you got to have 3-4 boxes. The one place and it looks like a nightclub. And I don't mean a virtual background. We actually got a certain curtain and light, so it's a real live feel.
Right.
And and it's an exciting thing to do. And that's one of the things I did during the pandemic, which
I think that's great. Just to let you know, I did do something for Bernie. First of all, we love Bernie Firstpan. Mm-hmm. He's a great guy. He's a great business person. The Metropolitan Room, by the way, is where I met you, Bob. It was Dana Loge's show.
Oh, Dana Loge. Oh, yeah. Like she was one of the. That's right. Wow, totally forgot.
God rest her soul.
For so long now, I forgot about that. Yes.
God rest her soul. One of the nicest ladies. I used to say she was a cross between Liza Minnelli and Peg Bundy. That is like that was her. And she was so kind to me. And you know what? She, I would do a guest spot. I loved her show. And I got to tell you something. The Metropolitan Room was one of my absolute favorite rooms. It was the original Gotham Comedy Club where I had started out, and I loved it. I loved it. And then then Bernie took it over, and I love jazz, which is also on my post-COVID go to more list.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I said anyway, but Dana used to give you like, she'd always give you like a little trinket, and it's funny too. I was going to wear them. She gave me little microphone earrings, and she gave me this like real rhinestone ring that I wear sometimes. I love that woman. Anyway, getting back to Bernie. So it closed. The Metropolitan Room had closed, and then he moved up to the Triad, which is on 72nd Street between Broadway and Columbus. And it's a great, it's a historic room. But I did do something for him. It was probably like May or something. So he did some entertainment. I think Pia Zadora was on that. So we had somebody, 2 people sing, a few comics and stuff, and it was for healthcare workers. And we were plugged into like somebody, I live actually up the block from Cornell and Columbia Presbyterian Cornell. So it was one of the departments there.
Oh, you're right. I remember now, but I didn't get a chance to see that one because something had happened. I couldn't watch that. Yes.
But
I remember
agree with you. Like, I think, people have really thunk outside the box and, have provided entertainment. And, again, it's as best as we can do. And it's funny too, because you have to up your computer skills, and figuring out how to do everything, and the lighting and the ring light. And so I've done some stand-up comedy shows. I've done a few, actually. I've done a bunch. I did a few that were private, that were just me for a fundraiser. I did a baby shower, a party, and something like that. And, I have to tell you, the first one was not good. And it was because I'm not used to it. You're used to hearing the laughter, you seeing people's eyes. I'm a big energy person. I walk into the room, I feel the energy right away.
So weird.
And it was
like watching sports with nobody in the stadium. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's weird.
Right, exactly. So very strange. But anyway, that's great. I love that. But you're doing some other things too as well, right? You've done some benefits.
What I've done is I had the idea one day. I said, all right, how can I promote some clients and have some fun on board? Because I'm sitting there's no work,
Right.
The whole business is shut down.
Right.
And so what I decided to do is, and it's a long story, but I wound up producing a concert at home called what we called Stepping Forward, take off on concerts that I produce for my company, Step Forward Entertainment. Stepping Forward to virtually celebrate the music of the legendary Neil Sedaka, who I've always loved his music.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of my singer clients record from home different numbers, each one did a number, and put it together and edit it, and taught myself to edit for over a month, put about 100 hours in on my Mac Airbook, and really, put this really well together. It was really well done. I must say so, not coming off pompous because I don't normally do that. But it worked so well, and I got the Actors Fund. I became a benefit for the Actors Fund, and it's been running. I just started it running again. If anybody wants to see it, it's free. If you have the money, you can afford it, and it moves you, and you want to contribute a little bit to the Actors Fund, who've helped actors to the tune of $12 million during the pandemic. It's great. But if you just want to watch, don't feel obligated to do anything but have a good time. If you go to Times Square Chronicles, that's T2C online.com. Put the name of it in the search. Stepping Forward to celebrate Neil Sedaka. Put any of those words in, you'll find it. Or Broadway World also is streaming it on demand too. Same thing. Go to BroadwayWorld.com. It came out again on September 7th, and I'm going to run it at least through the end of October, maybe longer, because it's getting a lot of good reviews. People are enjoying it. It's fun. If you know Neil Sedaka's music, it's some of his greatest songs, and people recorded it really well, mostly with track. A few got to do it with a piano. They had somebody, they live together or they're close in the same building or whatever, and came and played for them, and they could safely. We did it in June, and it originally started in June. And then I took another concert that I did live last year called Asian Artists Step Forward. And what I did is I took that and I had a client and a friend named Valerie Smaldone, who's like the voice of Broadway, an announcer, radio announcer. You may know
Yeah.
Valerie.
Yeah.
Right. She did a wraparound from home with like no equipment with her iPhone or something, a front and back to talk about the Actors Fund. And I put that out streaming also on Times Square Chronicles and Broadway World. They've been very supportive, carrying the show. And we raised money for the Actors Fund, which is given out $12 million during, giving actors, people who needed $1,000 to pay bills, and not just actors, but anyone in the entertainment community. So it's really an important charity. If you're all involved in entertainment, they're there to help you if you need it, and they're really good. So that and the live concert I just talked about at least kept me busy, and I'm doing something positive, and keep me from going off the deep end. I'm also working on trying to create a couple of TV pilots and things like that, but nothing to talk about yet because it's all just being developed. Takes a while.
Right.
But it keeps me busy and it keeps me sane. And I'm so happy now that the business is starting to open up so we can start to try to get some of my clients on both coasts because I have a big LA office and LA partner and want to get people working again,
Right. Yeah, no, it's been a very tough time economically for lots of people.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm not trying to say this in a glib way, but the economic and emotional impact is going to be, I think, a lot more severe than the actual, people that,
Yes.
I don't want to say demise, but just the medical effect of the virus. I mean that because that's something, again, not to discount anybody's illness at all, or
no,
but there's a big component of financial and emotional impact to this that's never is very hard to quantify. To me, whatever number you hear, multiply it by 3.
I alone know of. I have 2 or 3 clients on both coasts who have already getting divorced because of because of this. What would have happened if that maybe years later? I don't know, but I just know that direct consequence to being cooped up and stressed and worried and all the other factors. That 3. I know one person, a young person, who actually contemplated suicide. Thank God they didn't, and they got help. They contemplated it. And more than a lot I've heard, people, it actually crosses their mind. I'm a person, the only way I would ever justify suicide in my world, in me, is if you're absolutely dying with no chance, you're severe pain, and you're days away. And rather than suffer. Other than that, I fight to live every second. I love life. I still feel like I'm 30 inside, even though I'm far past that right now, and I have lots of energy and I'm up 18 hours a day. And I'll bet you, like a lot of us, I'll bet a lot of the viewers out there, you notice now when you didn't have to be up in the morning to be anywhere. I mean, you might be working out of your house, but you didn't have to go anywhere. So sweatpants was like all you wore, or shorts, or, right? And you sometimes had to motivate yourself to take a shower, whereas it would never be a problem when you're going out every day to go to work.
Right.
So, I'm sure we've all experienced a lot of these crazy symptoms, and also trying to fall asleep and being up till 3, 4 in the morning instead of going to bed at 11 o'clock or 11:30 or whatever, So those are the things that have hit me.
Yeah, routine, I think, is important, and so whole path has been a little weird anyway, because I did do a day job. I was a CPA, an accountant, finance person for a long time. So I did do that. So 12 years ago when I quit and I was working at home, it was very weird. And I had to kind of get used to what that exactly was. I mean, I was always used to getting to a desk by 9 o'clock, the latest. So, so I found early on, and I got better at it as time went on. So I haven't veered from any of that. I'm a big workout person. I have to work out. 5 years ago, I found like the love of my life in terms of the workout studio, which we can't go to. So even though gyms are open, okay, at 25% capacity, but you have to wear a mask. But the dance studio, there's a lot of, just so people know, especially on the Upper East Side, I'm sure it was on the Upper West Side, a lot of boutique exercise places opened up over the years, like a lot of spin classes, bar, yoga, you're totally like on top of each other. So I went to this place, it's dance, it's high intensity. I mean, you sweat. It's hot. I mean, I love it like that, like pouring sweat, like that is my jam. And you're on top of each other and there's just no way. So it's going to be like Broadway until she's able to open up again, because it's the same thing. It's like there's just the virus kind of has to go away, however it's going to go away. However, they did do virtual. So I do virtual. There was no way I was going to not work out. There was just that one, I would lose my mind. So, and I have to tell you, the virtual took me quite a while because I didn't like working out at home and I had to like move things. I wound up buying on Amazon, which is the one place that has done gangbusters with this whole virus. Like, I think Amazon might have planted the virus. Like, I think, because it worked out so well for Amazon.
They were doing well before it, though. But they're really doing well now. But they do deliver, and they deliver pretty on time.
Oh, but I mean, it's like a zillionfold. But anyway, I digress. So I bought on Amazon a dance floor. We put together a dance floor, so because we have carpeting, so that I can jump up and down and do all my crazy stuff. So so I continue with that. I take a 9:30 class. I mean, I'm up obviously before that, so I still kept my routine. But I absolutely can see how you get into a rut. You don't go outside, all that kind of stuff. And you know what? Going outside is very, very important. And,
yes.
I know you put the mask on, the park, whatever, walk around the block, go get milk, whatever it is. But you should really go outside to get fresh air. Now, for people, and this is more for obviously people that live in apartments. I will say also with this whole pandemic, it made me want to I mean, I don't know when this will happen, but like I said to my husband, I'm like, we need another place to go. Like I need a play. I don't care how, it doesn't have to be huge, but just someplace where there's a deck. And I'm not a huge nature person, but all of a sudden it was like, I needed to see green. I needed to see some fresh air. So in the city, it was even worse, where people that, live in a nice house or house, whatever it is, was a little bit different. So a lot of that, but I do think it's important to get up and look at it as a work day and and shower and put on some decent clothes. You don't have to put a suit and tie, but just sort of, because I think that's good for your mind. Even sometimes I put a little mascara on.
Show you, see, real clothes, and I'm wearing pants.
Yay!
Yay. But, I know that you see the people that are in they're always wearing a shirt or a tie, and then they're in their underwear. I'm really dressed for the day.
Although, what? Let's talk about this for a second. Talked about entertainment, but obviously New York, show business in general, all the offices. I've been having this conversation with quite a few people over the weekend because I think what's happening now is that companies want to start going back. They're going to adhere to the protocol, the temperatures, all that kind of stuff. People wear masks or they'll stay away from each other, however they're going to do it, because there really is nothing, in my opinion, like human interaction, unless you're you work for Facebook or you're at a fulfillment center or something like that. But when you're, again, from someone that worked in an office, I have a report. I don't know, something doesn't make sense. I go inside. Hey, Kathy, what?
Hey, we'd be doing this over a glass of wine or a coffee
Right.
somewhere if this was a normal period of life.
Yeah. Well, we would be in a studio because I do it at the comic strip. So
right, we would be doing a studio,
right,
and
all of that.
we'd be right there. Yeah,
I'm starting to think, because and again, I've been doing my own little survey, that employers, because about 150 businesses, by the way, sat down with de Blasio, and I think they pretty much read him the Riot Act. Because a lot of companies want their people back. And obviously, if people have conditions and whatnot, no one's looking for that. But for other people that are, healthy or not at risk, high risk, they need some presence back in the office. Because
absolutely.
I think a lot of people were like, no, this is the way it's going to be. It's going to be remote forever. No. And I'm not saying that there might not be certain situations, but I think for the most part, employers want their employees in the office. Plus, and I have to just say this one thing. I was with my cousin last night, and so we're having this conversation, and she's a lawyer. Her husband's in finance, and they live in Larchmont. And she said,
I used to live nearby.
And she said, you should see, like on a Tuesday, the tennis courts are filled. It's like, these are people supposed to be working. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
they're far enough away from each other to be safe.
Right.
And I saw some people are playing tennis with gloves. So the whole problem was really, and what a mask does is you want to keep your hands from touching a lot of things, from touching your face until you wash them or sanitize them. But you're better off washing than sanitizing, because after a while, sanitizer and alcohol dries your skin out,
Right. Well,
my feeling, I'm not a doctor, I'm not preaching, I'm just saying what I think,
Well, I just want you to know that I was ahead of the curve, because I am a germaphobe and I wash my hands 9,000 times a day. So when they started with the washing hands,
no problem.
Really? This is new? Is this a new thing we're talking about? Really? So it's like, thank God. So some of this pandemic, I'm a little okay with, no one's going to come up to my face.
In general, just to be healthy. Yeah.
There's a few things I kind of like, but I do have to tell you that when we're driving and I look over at the other car and there's somebody driving, the driver, and they're by themselves and they have a mask and gloves on.
Insane.
I think that's a little,
no reason.
A little much.
No, unless they're an Uber driver. Right. Or a Lyft driver, because then they're supposed to anyway, and they're taking up strangers and passengers. But when you're by yourself, I mean, even an Uber driver, you should pull the mask down. We all know breathing your own carbon dioxide is not the healthiest thing in the world.
I went to
It's common sense. It's common sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm having a little bit of an issue too, because I'm I'm Greek. I'm a loud talker. And I'm a comedian, so I'm used to it. But for low talkers need to up the volume. Like, you can't be a low talker. You have to, I went to the post office, and there's one woman there. She's got 3 things of plastic, the slide thing, the gloves, the mask, and I'm going to just say this, I don't care how it sounds, but she is Chinese. She has a very thick accent, and she's a low talker. I couldn't.
Trouble. You might as well be mute.
And
you can't even read the lips.
She doesn't touch anything. She's got a long pencil, and she takes your mail like this. I'm just like, what? Oh my God! Oh my.
It is. Yeah, like that. Yeah, it's like, that's so funny.
And you know what?
Funny.
It's almost like. It's like, you know what? Maybe the post office isn't the job for you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you need to go to a fulfillment center and do that. That probably would work better. Oh, it's incredible. So anyway, this is what goes through my mind.
That's well, you get material for your next stand up. That's all.
I got a lot of material, and I am married now. We aren't getting divorced only because we're too tired, and we're too tired to go anywhere, and we're not interested. So it's it's like our time has passed. Our prime is really gone. Okay, so we might as well just because we like each other, but we ran out of things to talk about after 5 days. I don't know how this, we've got nothing.
That's what TV is for.
Listen, a lot of that going on. Well, my husband constantly has earphones. He's constantly listening to podcasts, except mine. He's never listened to mine. He listens to everybody else's. So
yeah, funny. It's funny. That's very funny.
Oh my gosh. I adore you. You're a nice human. You're so interesting. I have to tell people on your Facebook page, I don't know if you kind of accept anybody, but you have these nostalgic, just nostalgic clips. And one of them is a Timex commercial that you did in the 70s that I watched it 100 times. I was fascinated. I love old retro commercials. I love.
It's 1979. I did that. That was the first Timex digital watch, the marathon that I did.
That's amazing.
And it made a lot of money. It ran 3 years in prime time only. And for those who care, if you put in Bob Blume, Blume, Timex, it'll come up. It's Jim McKay was the host, if you remember him from the old days of the Olympics and ABC Wild World of Sports. So I auditioned. I was very proud. I beat out 300 people for that commercial because I was an actor, a mediocre actor. I wasn't a great actor. I worked, but I wasn't great. I know as a producer, a good producer and manager, I'd get somebody better than me, And but I did beat out. I was a goalie. I was a good amateur hockey goalie. And I had to try it on the ice, and then Gray Advertising was the agency, and I beat all these people out, and I had the line. It made me a lot of money. They put a watch on my glove, as you saw,
right?
And basically, they beat the crap out of me, choreographed, of course, with four NHL players. Another actor was a hockey player, and some others. And then showed that the watch was still working. They didn't use ticking because it was digital. So they just said, the line was, how's the watch? And I went, like a Timex, that was the line. Because you couldn't say takes a licking and keeps on ticking because digital doesn't tick, But it was fun. I had a good time. We shot that at the old Nassau Coliseum. Well, it's still around the Nassau Coliseum. It was new in those days, yeah.
Did you ever do any other commercial of that high profile like that?
I did a print job for another hockey with Phil Esposito, who was a Rangers star at the time. And we shot that. It was a print job. I did a thing with National Lampoon because one of our print thing, because the editor was Ratso Sloman, who wrote Howard Stern's book. He's written a lot of books. Ratso used to play. We were all on the same hockey team together with late Ira Gittler, who was a great famous jazz writer and hockey writer. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of crazy people as part of our group. I miss that, We've lost a few over the years. Yeah. I started in the 70s, and but no, I didn't. I was on TV. I did Stump the Band on the old Johnny Carson show as the page who gave out the dinners. If you like to hear funny old stories, quickly, funny story was to set it up. One of the people there was the daughter of Mike Wallace. Remember Mike Wallace, the newscaster, right? From 60 Minutes. This is going way back now. This is in New York, late 60s. I'm 20 years old, And so it happened to be a fabulous gourmet dinner at, I think, In on the Clock, I think in the UN Plaza at the time, high-end restaurant. And she was had just come from France, was a gourmet in cooking and all that. So she took me, she got the award. I got to meet her online, took me as a date. We went and I tasted 100 dishes. It was the most amazing evening of food I've ever had, So I had some crazy times. I don't know if I ever filmed any other commercials. I was on TV a little bit way back, but now I'm more behind the scenes. I want people like yourself to be performing, not me.
What was Johnny Carson like? Did you ever get to engage with him?
Oh yeah, I dealt with him. He could be very difficult, but he was the best ever at what he did. And he was clever and smart. I mean, when he had somebody on the show that wrote a book, Johnny took the Evelyn Wood speed reading course. He read every book in the afternoon inside of 40 minutes. As part of his, besides learning the monologues each day, he would go through the books. So he knew, he made every book his own cliff notes, so to speak, if he had to. So, and when he respected you, he was a great interviewer and really gave you time. If he thought you were a bimbo producing a movie and couldn't put 3 sentences together, he would bury you, But he was okay to work with. He was a tough guy at times. The one I was actually closer to was Ed McMahon, and I knew Doc. I actually went out once with one of Doc's daughters, Doc Severinsen. Mm-hmm. And again, I was young, and it was a lot of fun. And I was actually there. It's not on tape. It's the craziest collection. And it was not a good show, but it was one show where Joe Garagiola, the old baseball announcer and match game host, right? Right, yes. Joe was the guest host, and he had Lennon and McCartney in their prime in 1968 and Tallulah Bankhead together on the dais. Nobody had anything to do with the others. Garagiola could not handle it, even though he was a smart guy, and it was the worst show ever. But the only thing that's left over is a still, because they erased the tape. In those days, they went over the videotape to reuse. And they didn't realize how important they would be later. So a lot of those shows are missing. I worked Tiny Tim's wedding. He got married on the show. If any of you remember the pop icon Tiny Tim, Tiptoe Through the Tulips with the high voice. So I had a lot of great adventures. I got to produce a show honoring Richard Nixon, who I never was a fan of in politics, but in the late 80s. But I produced entertainment for a Fitness Foundation Awards that honored him. And John Akers, who then was the CEO of IBM. And John Akers and we talk hockey because he played at Harvard when he was there. So, I've been lucky. I've had a lot of interesting times and situations, and have been asked to write a book a lot, but I just figured there's so many celebrities who don't write books. Why would anybody care about what I do?
But that's it. Because you're not a celebrity. To me, you're a celebrity, but you're not, the household names. You have these very interesting stories, these behind the scenes. And I think that we are craving, again, like we said earlier in the beginning of the podcast, about, we're craving for the earlier time where things were simpler and they were just nicer and it just felt easier.
Oh yeah, there was, if you want to hear, I don't know what much time you have or not.
Don't worry.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, there was one example of irony. In the late 60s, I'm a page, and I got a chance to fly. They booked me so I could work when they went out to Burbank for 2 weeks. Before they moved to LA permanently, they used to, go out there a few times a year for 2 weeks at a time. I think more so they could have different guests, and more they had a lot of fun because they were a crazy group, the old Tonight Show people. They were great people, right? Great, nothing but great memories. So I'm a young guy. I'm still senior year of college, and I went out there, and I had a friend in those days who was famous named John Biner. He was a stand-up comic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you remember the funny duck voice and so on. He created a show called Bizarre on Showtime when they first started. So anyway, I'm at a party at his house. He didn't make it there. They were doing a TV special at Mel Torme or something. But I'm sitting there with a lot of celebrities of the time there. And we're sitting around in a circle, and Richard Pryor was next to me. And they're passing around, that they used to do at parties, right? Okay. And I just passed it on because I was not into that. To me, nothing wrong with it. I just don't do anything. That's not my thing.
Mhm.
I'll have a drink. I like to have a drink, and I'm a lot of fun. I'm high on life, you know. I've always been that way. So he goes to me and he goes, "Man, aren't you having some?" And I said, "Nah." I said, you know, he said, "Man, you ain't hip." And I said, and I was a little bit of a smart ass when I'm 21 years old. And I went, and even though he's a big star, I went, "Hip is knowing if you want to do it or not." That was my smart alecky answer. And
Ooh,
he
I
really
like
got pissed,
it.
and he didn't like me and he avoided me. So of course I go back to New York a week or two later when it was over and I have to work a craft music hall, which they used to tape in Brooklyn. And I was the page there in the afternoon because they always have one page earlier to be there when the show starts rehearsing and whatever. Then they bring the others in when they're going to bring an audience in, right? So who's in there by himself, of course, sitting there, who's a guest on the show? Richard Pryor, who just sees me in horror and runs the other way. He hated me. So irony, I manage Richard Pryor's son now. How's that for a funny world?
My gosh, that's
Right.
amazing.
And by the way, he was a wonderful guy, by the way. But, you know, Richard Pryor was not evil or anything bad. We just didn't get along because he was mad at me. And he had his demons, but there was nobody more brilliant, really. Man was like he and Robin Williams. They're one of a kind, you know. Even Seinfeld should be in that category, one of a kind,
Right. I
you
agree.
know. And so, but I had a lot of craziness that would happen, you know. And we had a lot of fun, and a lot of it is remember the movie Zelig, where Woody Allen played a character who would always just be there. It wasn't about him, but he would be there. I happen to just always be around things that are fascinating and interesting, not because I'm so great or it's about me, but I just happen to be there a lot, you know. And it was so that's where a lot of my stories come from, just being right place at the right time for something funny or maybe not so funny, you know. So that's just fate. That
Well,
you know,
like I said, I believe there's no coincidences. So you were meant to be there. And
I'll take it because I've been very fortunate. Even like I'm looking now at the
yeah,
poster which is behind me. That's when I used to produce the Drama Desk Awards, which by the way I don't anymore after 2018. I did it from '99 to 2018. I actually built it up into not the award, the show.
right,
Okay, the
right.
award's been around and prestigious since the '50s. So on behind me was one of the great shows. We had Lily Tomlin. What a wonderful lady she was, you know, right? And and you know, and she was wonderful, and we had a lot of big stars that were on the show, and we had a good time. I worked very hard, and it was a lot of fun, and I love promoting theater. You know, I do a lot of things for love. Not I'm not driven by money. I've been fortunate that I'm okay. I mean, I've been wealthy and I've been broke and whatever, up and down, like we all do. But I'm motivated by the craft, the fun, what we're accomplishing, how it will help the human condition. I'm really driven by that. I'm not. I mean, yes, we all need to make money and want to make money. We have to, and I like capitalist societies, but you got to have fun and you got to enjoy your time on Earth. And I live with that credo. I'm having a good time today. I love doing this. This is
Oh,
fun.
well, yeah. You mean you have a good attitude, and it definitely shows, and you have a lot of passions, and you are a people person. I mean, you are clearly a people person. You like to be out, and you've touched a lot of lives, and I mean,
Yes, I like doing that in a positive way.
mhm.
I like touching lives. I mean, I've done a lot of crazy things. I've run a high-rise medical center. I was a manager at the Village Gate. I was a host for jazz once. I was a school teacher in the New York City school system for 4 years. I've done a lot of crazy stuff, I guess. To me, crazy because I've always been part of the entertainment business, but just things take you into different walks of life for a while, and it makes it fun.
I like
You
to think of it as well-rounded.
Okay,
You have,
whatever. That's for you to say. If I say it, it'll come off the wrong way because I'm a self-effacing person, actually. You know, I mean, I do what I do, but I want it to affect other people in a positive way. And, you know, unfortunately, we're in a world with a lot of evil and a lot of selfishness. but there's a lot of good people too. And I choose to surround myself with the good people. And I'm very lucky that I get to do that most of the time now.
Well, listen, my father's, one of his many pieces of advice was, try to control your own destiny. I mean, that's
Yes, you can.
I mean, that's the key. Let me just ask you sort of one last thing, since we're sort of on entertainment. So, nothing, I mean, specific comes to mind, but I just find, and we were talking about Netflix before, there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of content.
Oh, yeah.
Now there's, and then of course there's all the social media, the TikToks, the Instagram videos, whatever. And, I don't do TikTok, but, I do I'll do maybe like a quick thing, or I'm a funny post or whatever, but I would rather just be out there than and I realize that this isn't my generation, even though I'm in it as well, but I'm more comfortable, just sort of being out there. But there's a ton of content, and like sometimes some of it is so violent and so disturbing. Like I hate to say that, like I can't watch so many of these shows that people are like, oh, you got to watch this and you got to watch that, and then I go, oh, okay, and I start, and I'm like, I can't watch. I just want to relax. I don't want to be tense. I don't want to have like a gross image in my mind, and I'm no prude, okay, but it's so sexualized, or it's like there's like so much nudity, and it's like, can't they do the same scene in like 3 seconds? Like, do I have to like watch this for 10 minutes? So what's your take on it? Because we have the same sensibility in terms of entertainment and sort of like, the things that we like. I mean, like, how do you feel, having also had so much experience and have been around, when you see things like this? Like, where do you think we're going in terms of entertainment?
Here's the thing. Remember, when everything is too open, it's too easy. I'll go back when you were a kid and you're having your first experiences dating, whether you're straight or you're gay or whatever way you go when you have a first crush, whatever. There's an excitement and there's a build to it, and you enjoy it even at the most innocent beginner levels. Everything's so open, in my mind, takes it away, that a 12-year-old can watch and know everything about sex, can watch it.
Right.
Will take away from their growing and experiences like other generations had. If you were dating in the 50s, at least surfacely, you put your arm around someone, it was like a major deal, or you had a secret crush and there was an excitement, a spring in your step. Now it's what I understand from a lot of the younger people, who son's age, when they're going out, I mean, it's boom, here we go. Yeah, it's the next thing we'll do. Oh, you want to drink? You want to go home? There's nothing, I don't say it's wrong, but it spoils a lot of enjoyment that a human could have, I think, when too much too quick. You love chocolate ice cream. If we give you a huge bowl every day, 3 weeks from now, you're not going to be so excited about chocolate ice cream. It's kind of that simple. The way films are going, I mean, part of it is they're trying to be more realistic. So if nudity would be called for in that scene, they want some of it there, distasteful. And I understand that. It's more realism. There's high def. Things are closer. Everybody's a little more sophisticated now, at least to knowledge of what's going on. Okay, so that's why it's not the 60s or 70s where even a husband and wife to sleep in the same bed had to put one foot on the floor. That was the code on networks. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No,
even in the 70s, it was. You couldn't have the I Love Lucy era where they had 2 separate beds.
Right,
Nobody ever slept together in
right.
TV land, in that era, which was really, we know, wasn't the truth.
Right.
Really. I mean, some people did, but not like they put it on television. Everything wasn't Leave It to Beaver. It was a nice image, but we know it wasn't like that.
Right.
And it also wasn't representing a large segment of the community. It was taking one segment, very conservative Midwest white America, and now we want to be reflective of everybody who's in America, which is a good thing.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's why a lot of diversity now in film and TV. They want to reflect the people that are watching, not some image that doesn't really exist. And that's okay. Violence to me is tough, but it's the problem. The bigger problem is in the video games because there people are actually shooting and killing. Watching it on TV is one thing. Actually doing it in video games, which all kids are doing, is another. And but it is what it is, and it's blurring the lines. Kids are playing years ago when Grand Theft Auto was a big game, but there's a big difference of a game of hijacking a car, knocking somebody out, shooting them, and stealing a car. On a video game, that's okay, I guess. But going out, don't blur and do it in real life. And there's a large segment of the population, maybe not large, but a segment of a population that they blur the lines and they get confused. And that's why you have a lot of younger people who are a little more disturbed than they might be in other eras. That's my take on it. Not that I'm so smart. This is just how I feel. I'm not conservative. I'm open to things, but I know that that definitely affects the kids, of the generations. And I wish everything wasn't so accessible to everybody. But they are going just like as a manager for my clients. If it's a tasteful project with major people, major stars, handled right, if people are okay with it, I have no problem with actors doing nudity. If it's a trashy show on a trashy streaming network or someplace, okay, and you're getting paid no money to do something, I won't even submit a client for it. I don't want to be confused with porn. Porn is its own business, its own mindset. I'm not putting it down or whatever. I understand it's really popular, and with a lot of people, but I don't want to be in the porn business. That's just not what I want. I manage professional actors and performers, and I want them acting and performing in quality productions. And if I don't feel it's quality, even if it could make money for me and them, most of the time unless they really want to do it, I will shy away from it because I am a classy person in my thinking, good or bad. Sometimes it costs me money, but we are who we are.
Well, Bob, you will not have to worry about me doing any porn. I am way past that.
Good. So glad.
Between my faith and my husband and my Greek family, that ain't happening anytime soon.
No.
No matter what the money is. Not that anybody would want me at this point, but oh my gosh, I've had such a great time. I feel like we caught up a little bit too. So
yeah, we're hanging out. I love this.
I know, really I do. I miss.
I hope the viewers are enjoying it. I hope
they will. They will. And so, do you need to plug anything? Do you,
yes.
Those
can I plug stuff? Okay.
Plug
One is, if you're part of the entertainment industry, I do a column called Ask Bob Blume, and it's about people in the entertainment business, and I talk about that as a manager giving advice. It's Ask Bob Blume. It's a twice weekly column. Usually comes out early Wednesday morning and Monday morning. Okay, I'm sorry, Monday and Thursday usually on Times Square Chronicles, which is the letter T, the number 2, C as in cat, online.com. T2COnline.com, Times Square Chronicles. It's a great newspaper, and it gets a lot of views. I mean, some of their articles are getting 500,000 views. Wow. I've been getting averaging about 8,000 watching each column so far, from what I understand. And I'm pleased. I'll have guests on, like I have a column that came out actually this morning with Ted Mayer, who is a youth agent, and it's all about kids in the Midwest or anywhere else but New York and LA. How can they find an agent? And he's a major agent in New York and LA. So I'm looking to help people out. But if you have nothing to do with the entertainment industry, you may not care about my column, okay? But if you have anything to do with it at all, you will enjoy it, and it's out there twice a week. Ask Bob Blume. Then I'm proud of the 2 shows that are streaming, as I said, on BroadwayWorld.com and TimesSquareChronicles.com, T2COnline.com. And one is stepping forward to virtually celebrate the music of legendary Neil Sedaka. That's a 1-hour concert. Okay. And the other one is Asian Artists Step Forward. They're both benefits if people are so inclined and have the money to give something as low as $25. I give a link that goes directly to, everything goes directly to the Actors Fund. You know, it has Step Forward in the name so they know who donated, like why they donated. But, you know, but it goes right into their coffers. And they're a great charity for the whole entertainment industry. And that's why I do it. And they're fun. And they're both 1-hour concerts, tremendous talent that are actually clients of mine. And they're fun. And it's free.
Absolutely check that out. I'll try to put that in the link of the show as well, so people know to go to it. For your
I can actually send you direct links if you want. I'll email to you.
Okay. For your newsletter, can people sign up? Is it something we can subscribe to? Is there?
Well, I don't really have a newsletter, but if you go to stepforwardentertainment.com, that's my major website. There's a lot of entertainment on there, a lot of great music clips and things, and shout out of certain people that are doing things, you know, currently. You know, in fact, you should give me some stuff so I put your podcast on there too. And I have my own website, which is Robert R. Blume, my professional name, BLUME.com also. If you care about looking, I got some cool things. I've done some TV shows. I was on an Australian show called Angels in New York. I was on a German magazine show with a client. They followed around and signed her. I've been on other stuff. I don't recall what it is. I've been parts of things on and off for a long time. You know, and I don't usually talk about myself that much, you know. I talk about usually what I'm doing and clients like yourself. If you were nobody's in a movie now, or unless it's an old rerun, or during the pandemic, you know. So I have nothing to plug that way. But we have a lot. Periodically look at stepforwardentertainment.com, and we talk about what's going on. And there'll be a link up there also to this podcast if anybody wants to watch it or audio on the audio cast. And that's all. And we have fun.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's the goal. That is the goal. I can't thank you enough. This was terrific. I loved it. I loved hearing some of your stories. I know you have a ton more. I think you should write the book. And one of the things I didn't even touch upon, because you put clips on, is some of these clips that you've had going into nightclubs and the whole disco era and Studio 54. You know stuff, okay? You know things. You know where the bodies are buried.
If you ever want me to come back, I'll come back.
Absolutely.
Specifically, when we can just bear me, I'll just remember, because sometimes my stories are triggered by somebody saying something. So I'll actually think about it in advance, and we'll come on and we'll just tell some stories. Okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you. I am Ellen Karas. You can find me on my website, ellenkaras.com, ELLENKARIS. If you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, it is @GreekChickComic. And Facebook is Ellen Karas, Greek Goddess of Comedy. I thank you very much, and tune in next week. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody. Stay safe and healthy.